Garden at any moment. In the meantime, we'll take your questions, so please type them in the comments. Again, I am Alan Piper, NowThis senior politics producer. I am apiper13 on Twitter. I'm supported by our full newsroom of producers, each working remotely from their respective homes. This broadcast is coming without the full facilities of our studio, so please bear with us if there are any technical difficulties or an appearance by one of my cats. We are wrapping up a week in which more than 11,000 Americans have died from coronavirus. But that does not seem to be what the president has been focusing on. This week, he's been accusing President Obama of, quote, the biggest political crime in American history. But he's reluctant to say exactly what it is. Here is a flashback to his briefing on Monday, courtesy of NowThis producer Maddie Green.
By far, those were your words. What crime exactly are... Mr. President, in one of your Mother's Day tweets, you appear to accuse President Obama of the biggest political crime in American history. By far, those were your words. What crime exactly are you accusing President Obama of committing, and do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him?
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on from before I even got elected. And it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look at now all of this information that's being released, and from what I understand, that's only the beginning. Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again. And you'll be seeing what's going on over the coming weeks. But I wish you'd write honestly about it, but unfortunately, you choose not to do so. Yeah, John, please.
What is the crime exactly that you're accusing him of?
You know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspapers, except yours. John, please.
So that is a recap from earlier this week, brought to you by NowThis producer Maddie Green. Again, if you're just joining us, I am NowThis senior politics producer Alan Piper, coming to you from New York City, the global epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic. We are expecting the President of the United States at any moment. We are awaiting a feed from the Rose Garden of the White House. Today's event is called Recognition of Hard Work, Heroism, and Hope. I expect that, as often is the case, President Trump will speak from scripted remarks in which he offers conciliatory words, calls on Americans to come together in unity, and praises the work of governors from both parties in confronting this crisis. Then, if he goes off script, he will lash out at his enemies, he will undermine the guidance of his own medical advisors, and he will attack some of these governors that he has just finished praising. I also want to point out that in the last 24 hours, President Trump has tweeted a video mocking people for wearing masks. This comes amid the same week when the White House has ordered everyone who works in the building other than President Trump to wear a mask. So it appears that the precautions he wants for his own safety and protection are the same precautions he will mock others for taking. More than 1,000 Americans have died of COVID in the last 24 hours. In fact, it is getting closer to 2,000. But President Trump has not referenced that at all in his Twitter feed. Instead, in the last 24 hours, there have been more than 20 tweets obsessing over the Russia probe and so-called Obamagate. Now, as we suggested in a Fox News interview, he recently suggested that President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden should spend the rest of their lives in prison for a crime that he seemed reluctant to name. President Trump has a long history of baseless conspiracy theories, many of them surrounding President Obama. He launched himself into the political world with the racist birther lie. His focus now seems to be on the so-called unmasking of Michael Flynn. Now, for starters, that's not what it sounds like. Here's what it means. It's the job of U.S. intelligence agencies to spy on potentially hostile foreign actors. It's not typically their job to spy on Americans. So when an American is picked up in communications with a foreign actor who is under surveillance, the American's name is masked in the transcript of surveillance conversations to protect the American's identity, to protect his privacy. That is just to say the American's name is not going to be appearing in these documents. Now, after Russia got caught meddling in the 2016 elections, U.S. intel was listening to the phone conversations of the Russian ambassador, and just before President Obama left office, Michael Flynn called the Russian ambassador to discuss undermining sanctions President Obama had placed on Russia. Now, since U.S. intel was listening to the ambassador's calls, this conversation was picked up. Since Flynn was an American citizen, his name was initially masked in the transcript. But since the conversation pertained to national security and ongoing investigations, intel officials decided they needed to know who the call was with, and had his name unmasked, as would routinely be done. It is actually not a scandal. The only part of it that is scandalous is that Flynn was trying to undermine President Obama's foreign policy while Obama was still in office. Flynn knew that this was wrong, which is why he lied about it to the FBI, which is also a crime that he later pleaded guilty to. Now, the second part of this supposed Obamagate, and it's an amorphous thing. I think that's part of why the president doesn't like to say what it is. The second part is that notes have emerged showing that prosecutors in the Mueller probe sought to catch Michael Flynn in a lie. Again, this is not shocking if you've ever watched an episode of Law & Order. If investigators think someone has committed a crime, they will often try to catch them in a lie about that crime. President Trump has falsely suggested that these notes show that investigators tried to get Flynn to make up a lie about him. That is false. There is no evidence to suggest that. And of course, Obama had nothing to do with the Mueller investigation. The Mueller probe began after Trump was president. Mueller himself is a Republican who was appointed by Rod Rosenstein, also a Republican, who was appointed by Trump himself. Now, the third part of Obamagate is Trump's claim that Obama was trying to use the FBI to rig the 2016 election against him. This is a very odd claim to make, given that Trump won the election, likely in part due to the cloud of suspicion thrown over Hillary Clinton because the FBI let everyone know they were investigating her emails, but kept secret the fact that they were also investigating Trump's ties to Russia. Meanwhile, just this week, the Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee submitted the final volume of its own Russia probe report. They also concluded that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help Trump win. So that's what we know about that. Again, if you are just tuning in, I'm NowThis senior politics producer, Alan Piper, and we are expecting the President of the United States at any moment. In the meantime, we will do our best to answer any questions that you have about what's going on in the world in relation to the coronavirus, in relation to Obamagate, anything that we can try to help you with. Please type your questions in the comments, and the team and I will do all that we can to answer them. Now, I'm just checking our feed. We should be seeing the stream from the Rose Garden very shortly. Just looking. All right. So they appear to be awaiting the President of the United States. He is often late, but he will be here shortly. Now, we are coming off a big news day yesterday. Dr. Rick Bright testified to Congress. He was the scientist responsible for leading U.S. efforts to develop a vaccine. He was removed from his position last month, he says, as political payback for questioning President Trump's efforts to promote hydroxychloroquine. Now, just today, President Trump suggested that we will have a vaccine by the end of the year. Dr. Bright's testimony yesterday suggested that a vaccine is more than a year away. So the end of this year seems highly unlikely based on the testimony of the U.S. leading vaccine expert. Again, we would like to try to use this time to answer your questions, so please type away in the comments and we will do what we can to answer them. Now, yesterday President Trump tweeted that he had, quote, never even heard of Dr. Bright. Given that Bright was the top scientist in charge of working on a vaccine, if that's true that the president had never heard of him, that's actually a startling admission for him to make. Dr. Bright testified that he tried to warn the administration of the deadly threat of COVID-19 in January, but his concerns were dismissed. In particular, he tried to highlight the lack of available masks and other personal protective equipment and medical equipment. And he went on to warn that in the absence of a more coherent nationwide plan of response, the U.S. will face, quote, unprecedented illness and fatalities, and that we are about to face, quote, the darkest winter in modern history. This is very chilling language from one of the nation's top scientists. It is extremely alarming to hear him suggest that the worst is still ahead of us when already 86,000 Americans have died. Also testifying yesterday was Michael Bowen, a top exec at the nation's largest surgical mask provider. Bowen says that in January, he offered to ramp up production to make 1.7 million N95 masks available to the government every week, but he was turned down. As we know, in the following months, the nation suffered a devastating shortage of masks and personal protective equipment that has contributed to over 9,200 medical providers in the U.S. becoming infected with COVID-19 and many dying. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm NowThis senior politics producer, Alan Piper. We are expecting the President of the United States at any moment. Now, the President has been talking a lot about testing, and he has been highlighting the fact that the U.S. is currently doing more tests than any other nation. Now, this is technically true, but it is misleading because we are still behind other nations. Here we go. Hold on. I think I just heard an audio alert. Okay, now the President still has not emerged. We will bring you the President in just a moment. So the President of the United States is on his way. So regarding testing, the fact of the matter is we are substantially behind the rest of the world in the timeline of testing. This disease spread across the country rapidly with no way of knowing how it was going, no way of knowing how long it would take to spread, no way of knowing how many cases there were. I have been told that First Lady Melania will be joining the President as well. We are expecting to receive the feed of him any moment now. I have a question from Ian. Hold on. We have received the stream of the President. I will answer Ian's question after the event. So the President and First Lady are walking out.
Thank you very much, please. Those are friendly truckers. They're on our side. It's almost a celebration in a way. Please sit.
Okay, this is already the President. The first words out of the President's mouth were false. There are horns that you can hear honking outside, protesting President Trump, and he has just falsely claimed that these horns were celebrating him. This is false. The first words out of his mouth today were false.
Did very much. Great job. Fantastic job. In the midst of this pandemic, our nation has been united in grief and in prayer for the precious lives that have been lost. We've also come together in awe and admiration for the heroism and patriotism that we're witnessing.
As I had predicted, the president is reading from scripted remarks in which he calls for unity and celebrates Americans coming together. A reminder that just before coming out here, he was tweeting attacks on his political rivals.
First time in her life and traveled to New York to help. For the past 42 days, she's been working 12-hour shifts in the intensive care units of Kings County Hospital Center in Brooklyn. I know it well. I know that building well. I passed it many, many times. And Amy has been serving the coronavirus patients around the clock. She once held the hand of an elderly patient all night long just so the woman would not feel alone. Boy, that's something. Thank you, Amy. That's incredible. I want to thank you for what you've done. What a great story. I've heard about this story. Please come up and say a few words, please, Amy. That's great.
All right, so the president is honoring a medical provider who traveled to New York in New York's time of need, and indeed she should be celebrated.
Being able to serve our country as a frontline worker during this pandemic has truly been an honor. Like you said, I've been an RN for 17 years. Under normal circumstances as a nurse, I would have an idea of a treatment plan, and unfortunately, I was not afforded that comfort in the beginning of this pandemic. These were not normal circumstances. There were times of trial and error and a whole lot of prayer. I had to adapt to a new way of nursing. One where treatment was still unknown. One where families had to trust my word and I had to prove that my word was trustworthy. One where I could only provide comfort by holding my patient's hand, because I could no longer give comfort with numbers and statistics of success rates. Those were unavailable in the beginning. I provided families comfort through FaceTime calls, holding my phone up to a patient's ear, hoping that by hearing their loved one's voice, it would in turn give them comfort as well. This experience has been one of the most emotionally challenging things that I've ever been through, but it has made me a better person in the end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We are beginning to see progress, and we are starting to see stories of success. This virus may have initially caught our great nation off guard, but we will overcome this and we will prevail. Thank you.
Amy, did you ever catch the virus? Did you ever?
No.
You never got it. So with all of that long hours and with very, very sick people, you never caught the virus.
No, sir.
What do you attribute that to?
PPE.
Oh, really good. Good protection.
We have had protection.
So you feel, so you've had great protection.
I have.
So you feel that if you have the protection, you won't catch it. You feel that?
I feel that's what's protected me.
That is fantastic. Good.
Yes.
Wow.
And I have not had any me personally, I have not had any shortage of PPE.
And your coworkers, do they?
Not at the hospital that I'm at, no.
That's
they
incredible.
have
So you all have very
access.
good equipment, as
Yes.
the expression goes, right? The gowns and the masks, everything. Thank you very much, Amy.
you.
That's
So the president is highlighting that she had protective equipment that kept her safe, and that is one of the great scandals of what has happened, because this administration was very slow to mobilize any nationwide effort to supply masks and protective gears. Masks and protective gear, PPE. There have been widespread shortages around the country. This is beginning to be resolved, but only now that we are in May. New York was in deadly crisis throughout the month of March, and nurses in some New York hospitals found themselves wearing garbage bags in lieu of protective gear. The governor of New York called on the president to invoke the Defense Production Act and get apparel manufacturers producing masks and gowns, and the president held off doing that. At least 88 nurses have died from this disease because of exposure to it.
Really an honor to be here.
Thank you, Ben.
It is because of Jeff Plotner's guiding hand, the passion of the entire Brackish team, and the leadership of this country that we are being recognized here today. I am humbled to be in this garden today with such an amazing group of individuals making such a difference during these unprecedented times. Congratulations to you all, and thanks so much for all y'all are doing. I have no doubt that the United States of America will soar above this and come out stronger and more grateful for family, friends, community, and this nation, because we all know we're all in this together, and only together will we be able to curb coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
I'm just getting an update from Ian in our newsroom. He says that National Nurses United now says that it is over 100 nurses who have died from this disease nationwide. Now, again, once I bring the sound back, you will hear the horns honking. President Trump falsely claimed that they were honking in support of him. It is, in fact, a protest organized by New Jersey trucker Rick Santiago. He told the Washington Post that the purpose is to, quote, deliver the nation's leaders a distress call over shipping rates. He says that truckers say that the rates are now so low that they can't make a living. So it is not a show of support for the president.
Okay. With the aid of his union, Spencer's made it his mission to support these fellow New Yorkers. So if you would, I'd love to have you come on up and say a few words. Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to start by thanking President Trump and the First Lady for their unwavering support of the NYPD.
Thank you.
As one of your hometown cops, I thank you for your leadership during these uncertain times. On March 29th, I tested positive for COVID-19. Breaking the news to my parents, Janet and James, my brothers, Lee and Sam, and to my 8-year-old daughter, Liana, was downright scary. I saw the fear in their eyes. I looked at my daughter, and I assured her Daddy wasn't going anywhere. After a vigorous 1-month fight, I returned to duty in late April. After the experience with the virus, I felt compelled to help the residents of the housing developments that I patrol in East Harlem, New York. We are all in this fight together. Almost 6,000 uniformed and civilian members of the NYPD contracted COVID-19. Unfortunately, some of those members didn't make it home to their loved ones. Handing out N95 masks and engaging in important dialogue by educating the residents that not only do not have support and access to PPE hit close to home for me. Excuse me. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be an NYPD sergeant, and most of all, I'm honored to be an American. God bless police officers, first responders, and all of the frontline workers around the country. Thank you.
So how was that? You went through that process, and it took quite a while. It took longer than you would have thought.
It took almost 4 weeks, sir.
And what was it? Just complications?
Complications. I'm an asthmatic, so it was a little more difficult for me.
I see. I see.
And took a little extra care, but my daughter was there for me. She helped me out a lot, and she's my hero.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
You're my hero.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Say hello to everybody.
I will.
Thank you. It's great.
Now, for the record, at least 12 NYPD members have died from suspected cases of the coronavirus. Nearly 20% of uniformed NYPD are out sick.
These amazing 10-year-olds have donated 100 boxes of Girl Scout cookies to local firefighters, doctors, and nurses, and have spent approximately 200 personalized cards to healthcare workers all over. And they're going to do a lot more. Their ambition is to do a lot more. And I think, Layla, you're going to come up and you're going to speak. Why don't you all go up and stand, and maybe, Layla, you say a few words. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Please. That's great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Layla Khan with Girl Scout Troop 744. I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor to have been invited to the White House, and it has been a very exciting day. We'd like to first thank you and your staffers for ensuring our safety today. We appreciate all the safety measures that were put into place. In the middle of March, when everything began to shut down, we, like many Americans, felt compelled to support our healthcare and other essential workers and show our appreciation. We donated cases of cookies to our local firehouses and hospitals and we made cards to mail to hospitals in our community. Our troop has a number of parents that are healthcare workers, so one of the parents helped to take our personalized cards and place them on the lockers of doctors, nurses, and other essential workers throughout Children's National Hospital. While we are honored that the troop was invited to be here today, we know we are just part of the millions of other children out there that are doing amazing things to support their community, their friends, and their family. It is a privilege to be here representing all of them. They've made cards, painted pictures, held virtual parties, and have demonstrated how we are all in this together. Our message is that everyone can do something, whether it is donating cookies, adjusting to distance learning, or just helping out our parents. We have come together to support each other during this uncertain time. Thank you for the opportunity to serve our community, our essential workers, and our country.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Layla. What a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all three. Great job. Also with us today is Clay Young, a real estate developer and landlord from Jonesboro, Arkansas. That's a fantastic place. In March, one of Clay's small business tenants informed him that they were concerned that they would be unable to afford the rent. He immediately took the tenant's rent check, ripped it up, and then waived April's rent as well. Clay had only one condition. He said to his tenant, take care of your family and pay your employees. Just take care of those employees, please. We'll get through this together. And that's what's happening. Clay then told 11 more small business tenants that he'd waive their rent payments as well. With the help of PPP loans, many reopened the doors this week. They just reopened. So, Clay, I want to thank you very much on behalf of all of us in this country. And if you
So the president is celebrating a landlord who canceled rent. There have been numerous stories of heroic landlords who have shown support for their communities by doing that. One landlord who has not done that is Donald Trump. The Trump Organization owns many residential buildings around New York and in other cities as well. And while the Trump name tries to associate itself with luxury brands, they in fact own many middle-income housing units. And to our knowledge, the Trump Organization has offered no help in that respect. No forgiveness, no suspension of rent. Also, while many hotel chains around the country have opened their hotel rooms to share with medical workers so that medical workers don't have to go home to their families and potentially expose their families to the virus, the Trump Organization's hotels have made no such offers.
Times I remember those people that came and they helped me and my family. And so in that moment, I thought this is my chance to maybe just have some gratitude and some humility and pay that forward. And I will always remember those people. So then after that, I helped my tenants with the PPP loans, and I helped them help to participate in this amazing program that what has really served as an invaluable bridge for us all, which brings us to where we are this week. So as we work towards reopening the economy and maybe returning our lives to some sense of normalcy, I just want to say thank you so much again for having me here today.
Well, I want to say to you also, and being a landlord is a pretty good business, and I heard you've done really well, and it's nice what you've done, Clay. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Say hello to the people of your state. Your state is wonderful.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I like it. You know that.
President Trump acknowledging that he is, in fact, a landlord, and he, again, is not offering to help his tenants in this same way. The Trump Organization owns 34 residential properties globally, at least 14 here in New York, the hardest hit coronavirus city in the world.
Men and women we honor today remind us that the bonds that unite us in times of hardship can also raise us to new heights as we reopen and recover and rebuild. In the months ahead, we will harness our love and all of the things that we hold so dear to our heart.
Again, the President of the United States is driving at rapidly reopening. This week, testimony by Dr. Fauci warned of the dangers of reopening too quickly. The President keeps trying to suggest that we are already on the other side of this thing. I'd like to remind you that nearly 2,000 Americans have died from this in the last 24 hours, and 25,000 new cases were confirmed since yesterday. There have been 11,000 U.S. deaths in just the past week, so we are not on the other side of this thing by any means.
Wonderful and courageous Americans to come forward as I present them with a letter of recognition, and I want to thank our First Lady. This was a very important event for First Lady Melania. Thank you very much. Great job you're doing. Thank you. Thank you, honey. Okay, please.
The President just thanked the First Lady, and I would like to point out that the President said nothing about her specifically on Mother's Day when he's handing out letters of thanks to the people he has been honoring. I would like to highlight that he is standing shoulder to shoulder with each of these people, and none of them are wearing masks. He is touching the paper that he is handing to the people, which is tantamount to shaking hands. What I was starting to say about Melania Trump is that the President seems to have neglected her in his recent tweets. He tweeted over 100 times over Mother's Day weekend. His only Mother's Day tweet was just simply the words, "Happy Mother's Day," no reference to her or to the two other mothers of his children. He also seemed to spend most of her 50th birthday tweeting angry tweets about his political rivals. The President is leaning his unmasked face close to a little girl. And you can hear the horns in the distance of the protest that the President tried to claim was actually showing support for him. President Trump has made some...
Layla Khan.
President Trump has made some false statements lately about the impact of this disease on children. This week, he again suggested that it is only older people who are impacted by it. He also suggested that most of the people who are impacted...
Young.
He implied that most of the people impacted are likely fat. That is not borne out by evidence and is an odd thing to say. The fact is that there is a new and disturbing medical condition that seems to be spreading among children that is related to the coronavirus, and there have been around 100 cases of it in New York, leading to multiple deaths. And that appears to be the end of today's event. The President and the First Lady are leaving. And I just want to leave you with a few things. Ian, not Ian from our newsroom, but Ian from our audience, had asked a question that we didn't get a chance to get to. Oh, Ian, come on. Ian is asking, again, not Ian from our newsroom, Ian from our audience. Ian is asking, is there any truth to the theory that 5G affects the virus infection? No. No, there is not. Ian, please. Listen to scientists. Don't listen to things that you saw on YouTube. Scientists will tell you that these online conspiracy theories tying 5G wireless to the coronavirus are unfounded, and there have been dangerous consequences. Despite the scientists saying that there is no connection, Arsonists in the UK set fire to 5G wireless towers in Birmingham, Liverpool, and other towns, and then uploaded videos of the vandalism to social media. Again, scientists say there's absolutely no connection. What this does do is potentially cause potentially lethal fires when you set fire to a 5G tower, and it also potentially deprives people of the connectivity that they need to stay safe right now. There is no truth to that. Don't listen to that ridiculous theory. It has been promoted by certain celebrities, but there is not any truth to it. So anyway, that was today's event with the President of the United States. My name is Alan Piper. I am the senior politics producer for NowThis. If you care to follow me, that is apiper13 on a few different platforms. I had support from our newsroom today, particularly Brandon Caruso, Maddie Green, Zara Heder, and Ian McKenna. That is the end of this week. I have often run through a timeline of President Trump's response to this crisis. We've made a video of that, which a number of viewers have said is helpful. A link to that is posted in the comments. We are expecting the President to spend the weekend at Camp David, so we do not anticipate any events from him over the weekend. So no fact checks this weekend, but I will bring you the cheers and applause every night at 7 p.m. of New Yorkers honoring the first responders, medical providers, and essential workers who are daily risking their lives to save lives and keep this city going. The President was working today to honor some of those people. I would like to highlight that in the past he has suggested that the shortage of medical equipment was because nurses in New York might be stealing it, and that recently when the President of the American Association of Nurse Practitioners, Sophia Thomas, acknowledged in an Oval Office ceremony that some areas do not have enough PPE. President Trump snapped at her and rebuked the nurse and told her that it was not in fact true. I listen to the nurses who are there, and I trust the nurses. To everyone out there, please stay safe. Please have a good weekend. It is in many parts of the country going to be quite beautiful this weekend. I hope you are able to get outside, but please do it safely. Please do not think that just because the President is talking about this being over, that it is. Nearly 2,000 Americans have died in just the last 24 hours. This disease puts everyone at risk. Go outside and get some fresh air, but stay at least 6 feet away from other people and wear a mask as the CDC recommends. Please take care of yourself, check in on the people that you care about, and please use this time to let them know how much you care about them. We are going to get through this thing together. I will see you later. Thank you, and have a good afternoon. If we're still going, Ian, who submitted the question, I apologize if I came off as sharp with you. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it is easy to fall for it, and it is not a reflection on you that you have come across misinformation. Just please be careful where you get your information. We, on our part, will do our best to provide you with the best information possible. Ian, please stay safe. Thank you.